It's Play in the Shed day, so what fun and exciting project have I got in store for today? Well, I thought I'd do a little bit of woodworking type stuff. I follow a guy called Pask Makes, and he provides these free plans for a wooden bucket. Now this wooden bucket is supposed to be built so that when you're finished it will actually hold water. Well, we'll see. Anyway, first step is just to make the planks. They're 300mm long, and I'm just using some ordinary pine for this job. Right, they're cut out. Next step is a little groove in the bottom of the plank. The groove's supposed to be 6mm wide, so it takes 2 passes on my 3mm blade. I'm not an expert woodworker by any stretch of the imagination, and my tools are fairly rudimentary, but I enjoy the process and the challenge, and I haven't done anything like this before. Next step is to cut some angles on those boards, and again the plans provide a template because they're angled both 2 ways. So I've set the saw to the supposed 15 degrees, and I've made the templates, so let's see how we go. The first cut calls for the groove to be on the bottom and at the top of the template, and I'm making sure I only cut the very minimum off the board because my boards are only just wide enough for the plans. Anyway, there's the first angle cut, so it's on to the second angle with the second template. And this time the groove is on the bottom. So let's give this a go. And again, as I find, I've only just got enough material on my boards. I started with a board that was 89mm wide, and the finished top is supposed to be 84. So I've just hit that mark, which I guess is good enough. With all the boards cut, it's now time to give it a test. There are 12 boards in all, and I'm going to just tape 3 boards together at a time and then assemble it. By the way, the link to the Pask Makes is in the description, so go and watch his video because he does everything properly and he's a proper woodworker. I'm just for entertainment. Well, all 12 sides are in place and it sort of looks like it might work. Alright, on to the next step, which is to put the steel bands around it. And I'm just using some builder's string here to get a bit of an approximate idea of how long those bands have to be. I don't have a metal curvy type bender, so just doing it in the vise should do. I'm just using 20mm wide steel. His plans call for 25, I think, but I think the 20 might be a little bit easier. So I end up with a circle, and I've checked that it's sort of right, and so I'm going to weld it together. And of course I've got to make 2 of these. A little bit of fine tuning gets it sort of circular, and it's amazing how close you can get it just by eye. The bucket's angled, but of course the band is straight, so you have to hammer away on one side of the band to get the band on an angle as well. And a few passes does the job. I'm probably using a bit of a heavy hand here. A smaller hammer would probably be better for this job. Anyway, this one was at hand. Pun intended. Well, it's looking like, sort of looking like it should, but those edges are quite sharp, and I think I'll just smooth those out. And I'm just going to use a flap disc on my angle grinder to do this. This will make the bands fit a little bit better, I think, and it'll probably make the bucket look a little bit nicer too. I've got to make the base next, and the base actually fits into that groove that was cut earlier, so I'm just using 2 short sticks to measure the diameter of that base. Now, I'm put my grooves a little further away from the bottom than the plans, and I'm also using 19mm for the base rather than, I think, 11 or whatever that the plans made. So my base is about 220 wide rather than the plans 200. Anyway, I printed out the design, cut it out on the bandsaw. The next thing is to cut an angle. Now this is where things started to go to poo. I really should have done those angles by hand rather than trying to cut them on the saw. I really didn't get nice, straight, even cuts on the saw. Cutting that angle is supposed to mean that when it goes into the slot, it'll fit nice and tight into all of the slots, and it'll make the bucket watertight. Anyway, moving on, putting the base in to see whether it actually fits. And, well, at least it fits in. So, put the bands back on. Alrighty then, it's looking like a bucket, but let's have a closer look. And, you see, we can see down the bottom there, gaps, and there's gaps in a couple of the sides as well, so I didn't get the angle absolutely precise for the cuts on the saw either. So, oh well, a proper craftsman would have remade the bucket to make it perfect. But fortunately, I'm not a proper craftsman, so I don't have to remake it. So it's the handle next. My newly made scribe is performing well. You'll see the build of that scribe in a previous video. Want to curve the top of these brackets, and so that's just a simple matter of finding a curve that sort of fits. This time it's a paint lid, and just grind down to the line with the flap disc. The plans just call for a bit of fencing wire as a handle, but I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated. I'm going to make rings that go through the brackets, and the easy way to do that is just to weld a bit of steel onto some round bar, hammer it round into a circle, cut off the excess, and I've got a ring, and I make 2 of these. And instead of using 4mm wire for the handle, I'm using 6mm steel rod. A little bit of hardwood scrap will do for the handle, and so I just turn up a rough shape. Just something that looks sort of right. Alrighty, the handle's done. So I just thread it on, give it a bit of a curve, weld the other end on, and now I can assemble it. Easy. And there we have the finished bucket. That was actually fun to make. Never done anything like this before. But, of course, it's not going to hold water. So I'm not even going to try, but it looks pretty. And the handle's turned out well. So that's all that matters, isn't it? All right, I know what you're saying. I'll go and put water in it. Right, you happy now? It really doesn't hold water. It leaks like a sieve. So I've made a beautiful looking sieve. If you want to know how it's made properly, go and check out Pask Makes video. The link's in the description.